Grace Sovereignty Academy is a place for men and women that want to live in a world that has evolved beyond war and conflict, where every human being on this planet can live with abundance, can enjoy peace and prosperity, where there is nothing to fight for, nothing to take from others, because we each have everything that we need. When the people of all lands no longer subscribe to a national identity, political ideology, or religion, when the people no longer consent or participate in any movement or organisation that encourages, promotes, and engages in war and destruction, when the people truly appreciate and honour life, then we will see widespread peace and prosperity. Greetings and welcome. My name is Russell Paul Arthur. I am the creator of Grace Sovereignty Academy. We are an academy that is focused on sovereignty. Sovereignty with peace and prosperity. Because this world desperately needs peace and prosperity. Because this world, unfortunately, has bad men in positions of power who benefit and profit from war and destruction. And war, in all of its grotesque forms, is a nasty and sick business. When nations go to war with each other, it is a business in every sense of the word. It is geopolitical business. War is about conquering other nations to take control of the land, people, and resources. Because those who wage the wars, support the wars, and fund wars, they stand to gain from war. Billions are made by those who buy and sell weapons of war. Billions are made from those with the contracts to reconstruct war-torn cities. Billions are made from those in banking and finance. Because ultimately, all wars are corporate takeovers, where the largest corporations in the world with immense power and wealth, who own governments and control politicians, utilize war as a means to take over the economies of entire countries. And they capitalize on war and destruction. And all those who are actively involved in war, no matter what motives they have, no matter what side they take, no matter what uniform they wear or flag they raise, they are engaged with death and destruction for profit. All those actively involved in war destroy human life, destroy nature, destroy cultures. All those involved in war are dark, evil, and twisted men and women. Unfortunately, because we live in times of great deception, where the mainstream media spins the truth and fabricates the narrative in order to shape our perception, it is difficult to truly understand who are the enemies of war, because all sides of a war are claiming to be the heroes, claiming to be the liberators, defenders, or allies. But in reality, all those who aggressively engaged with war are the villains of war. A villain is a bad person with bad intentions to harm others. A villain is someone that breaks the law. A villain is cruel and malevolent. When people go to war with the intention of inflicting death and destruction, laws are violated and people are harmed through cruelty and malevolence. Where those who wage war, support war, and fund war, no matter what flag they raise, are the villains of war. They are villains who create victims. When it comes to war, it is always the innocent men and women, the innocent sons and daughters, the ordinary hardworking people of a country who are the victims of war. Most people in most countries, they never want war. They don't want death and destruction. Instinctively, most people want peace. Most people want to live in prosperity. They want freedom and joy. They want security and stability. They certainly do not want to live in the terror and trauma of having their way of life being destroyed by a hostile force. And these innocent people that I'm speaking about, they get caught up within the horrors of a war because the leaders of their nation do not want or do not know how to maintain peace. We have war and destruction in this world because there are sophisticated psychopaths, egotistical and warmongering maniacs that seek power and dominance over others, who are leading their nations to war. But they are not to blame, because you cannot wage war unless you have the people and resources. And we do live in a world where going to war is normalised, glamorised and portrayed as honourable, where young and naive men and women get seduced by the idea of pride in country, get hoodwinked into a naval, army or air force career with the promise of learning skills and developing character and strength, when in reality they are also being trained to become deadly assassins. They are conditioned with a warlike mentality. They are trained to be paranoid of humans and prepared to battle them. These people are trained to hunt, capture and kill humans, which is anti-human, which is an inhumane thing to do. And they will do this believing they are serving justice, believing they are in the right, believing they are a force of good, believing war is necessary, believing in anything they are trained to believe. And this means these trained killers who follow orders are not in control of their own minds. They are out of their minds. And it must also be recognised that these baby-faced merchants of war, these young soldiers who join the military of a country, do not represent a whole country of people. They represent the state. They are the muscle of the government. The orders for war come from the leaders of the state. The armed forces of a state are doing the dirty work for their warmongering paymasters, the leaders of the state, who wage, support and fund wars. Each soldier is a pawn in a game of geopolitical power and dominance. And many of these soldiers, many are delusional. They sign up for war and destruction, they train for war and destruction, they invade other countries to cause war and destruction, then they come back maimed and traumatized, and astonishingly, they will claim to be the victims of war. Like I said before, war is a nasty and sick business, yet this business can only exist because people want war, because people profit from war. There are many people who think war is something to take pride in, who think war costumes and military parades are something to be celebrated, who think making and supplying weapons is a good way to make lots of money. There are fathers and mothers sending their sons and daughters to fight people in lands far away when there is a real risk they will never come back. Why would you send your son or daughter to war and destruction? War and destruction is something that should fill our hearts with a deep sadness, with a tone of regret, with a sense of wrongdoing and shame. But I guess that depends on the state of your conscience. One thing is for certain, all those who are registered citizens of a state, who pledge allegiance to a national identity, are all responsible for the war and destruction caused by that state. Every citizen that is a registered taxpayer is paying for the military equipment, paying for the soldiers, bombs and guns that causes war and destruction. This means if you support your nation, if you vote for your nation, if you believe in your nation, if you fund your nation with tax payments, and your nation is involved in war, this means you endorse war. You are an accomplice of war. You are aiding and assisting death and destruction. And it is very clear that all nations involved in war, they actually want the war. They do not want peace. All nations involved in war may speak about peace, may attempt to negotiate peace, and yet they are funding and supporting war. If you look at any war in this world, that war is being funded and supported by more than one nation, and even those nations who do not have troops on the ground. They are sending billions. They are sending military equipment to support other nations at war. And why do nations fund and support war? Because it is good business for them. Because they stand to gain from more power and wealth. Because they profit from death and destruction. And like I will always say, war is a nasty and sick business. War is orchestrated by the minds of nasty and sick people. And it will take a radical evolution of human consciousness for us to move beyond war and destruction. I believe this can happen with personal sovereignty. When people wake up, grow up, and remove themselves from any movement or organisation that funds and supports war. Inside our Grace Sovereignty Academy, we teach our private members how to live and operate free and independent from nations that fund and support war, how to take a neutral stance, how to live for peace, in peace, and with peace for every other human on this planet. Because at Grace Sovereignty Academy, we are an organisation of peace. We are at peace with all nation states in this world. We want to preserve life and not destroy it. We want communion and not conflict. We shall always encourage peace. Inside the Grace Sovereignty Academy, our sovereign members are men and women with good hearts and good intentions. They are the new leaders of a new world, leaders that actually encourage and implement peace. So I ask you, are you sick of living in a world where there is war and destruction? Do you have a good heart and good intentions? Do you want to become someone that actively stands for and promotes peace? Do you want to become a sovereign authority and power who leads the people of your community into a new paradigm of peace and prosperity? If yes, then I encourage you to consider joining Grace Sovereignty Academy so that we can assist you in developing and building your personal vision for a better world for us all. Thanks for watching. Take care.